Because the truth of the matter is, you won't be able to live your purpose if you don't have a sense of who you are. You have to have and build a strong foundation of self so that you know the way that you're feeling is the way that you are feeling and not the way that's being guided by other people's feelings or how you think you should feel. It's you being able to make decisions that are aligned with what feels right to you. And you can only know that as you continue to deepen the relationship with yourself and connect in with yourself. What's up, guys, and welcome back to another entry in the Solitude Diaries. Today, we're going to talk about purpose. And this topic is so loaded because there's so much emphasis that I believe is placed on this concept and this idea of purpose. Since I was a kid, probably maybe 7, 8 years old, I have been contemplating this idea of purpose. At the time, I didn't really know or understand exactly what a purpose was, but it was like I knew that this was something that I needed to discover. It was like it was this thing that I felt very deeply and innately within me that I needed to get an answer to. And I had proposed the question to myself of what is my purpose for such a long time. So I'm a millennial, I'm 35 years old, and I grew up in the early stages of technology and all of that stuff. And I can literally remember going on Ask Jeeves and typing in, what is my purpose? How to find your purpose. And I remember everything that I saw really being correlated with your job or your career. And so my little kid brain associated purpose means it's your career. So for a really long time, all throughout high school and even college, I'm thinking that my purpose is this job that I'm doing. And I used to feel really jealous of people who went into school and knew exactly what it is they were supposed to do, because it felt so unclear to me. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I had concepts and interests, but my interests were so varied. On one hand, I was really into psychology, and that ended up being what I studied in my undergrad and got my bachelor's degree in. But then I also was very interested in fashion and interested in interior design and the more creative arts. And then I also had another interest in speech language pathology and all these other things. There were so many things that I had interest in, and having to decide and pick one felt so freaking hard. So even when I decided that I was going to go into my undergrad studies and study psychology, about 2 years in, I was feeling like, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. But at that point, I had already put in time and put in effort towards this degree. And I felt like, you know what? I might as well just finish it at this point. But I knew deep down that this was not the end all say all. And so after I graduated college, I'd gotten a job that was pretty much in my field. It was related. I was a residential counselor working at a group home for adults with severe mental illnesses. So our residents were patients who had schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety, things like that. Like, that was the nature of the population that we were working with. And I felt like I knew I didn't want to be doing this forever. But then I also felt the pressure of feeling like, well, I need to just decide something, because that's what we're supposed to do. We decide on our career, and that's where we go full-fledged in. So I started taking courses to get my master's in counseling. And I remember after it was like a couple of classes in, I just had the feeling that I didn't want to do this anymore. I knew it full bodily that I did not want to do this. I could not see myself actually going through the course length of the program. I couldn't see myself graduating and finishing. Like, I really had a hard time imagining myself doing that. And so I decided that I was going to finish out the first semester because I didn't want to just drop. I wanted to continue it on and at least learn something. That was just how I felt about it. I was intrigued by the topic and the subject matter, and I was okay with finishing out the semester. And after the semester was done, that was it for me. So now I'm still in the same boat of like, well, what do I do? I don't know what I actually want to do. What do I have an interest in? Oh, my senior year in college, I had taken a class in speech language pathology, and I really liked it. So now my mind goes to, okay, well, maybe you should look at becoming a speech language pathologist. And so that was a path that I started walking down. I did a whole prerequisite program because obviously my undergrad was in psych and I only had the one class in speech language pathology. So I did a whole prerequisite course, and then I had to then apply for the master's program. I did the application, submitted in the essay and everything else, and I got denied. And I remember at the time not feeling that bad about it. I was kind of just like, well, maybe this wasn't what I was supposed to do. Maybe this just wasn't meant to be. I very much recall just feeling a sense of like, okay, well, I guess that wasn't it. Then at some point, I went into taking a few classes in fashion design. So I learned things about color theory and different styling and things that really were interesting to me. I genuinely enjoyed the classes and I enjoyed what it was that I was learning. And I thought, well, hey, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But then again, a feeling came over that was just like, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is just the trajectory of where it is I'm supposed to go. And so the rest of my life up until more recently was kind of a lot of that. It was trying different things, seeing how it felt, seeing how it landed. So eventually I ended up leaving the group home, and then I got a job as an executive assistant working for an organization. And I'm still working for that same organization today, just in a different capacity and in a different role. And throughout the course of all of that time, I'd been exploring things because I knew deep down that this was not what I wanted to be doing. It was just what I fell into. And I know so many of us can relate to that. You kind of fall into a job, fall into a career, and it's not exactly the thing that is bringing you a sense of fulfillment. And what I started to realize more recently after having my spiritual awakening and starting my healing journey and all of those things and really starting to connect deeper with myself, I started to realize what it was that I was being called to do. And when you start listening to those breadcrumbs that are guiding you in a certain direction, they're going to start to give you clarity. And each situation that I found myself in landed me somewhere that brought me closer to myself. The biggest landing that I had was finding online, this was in 2022, like the end of 2022, I believe, or early 2023, finding a certification program to become a Dharma and spiritual life coach. And Dharma is the Sanskrit word for purpose. And it felt so resonant to me. As I read through the description of who this was for, what this program was about, I knew that this was for me. Everything about it felt like hell yes. And I signed up for the certification. It was a 6-month program, went through the program, and this is really where I started to gain a better understanding and sense of what purpose actually is and what it actually means to find your purpose. It took 30 something years for this to really become clear to me, but I understand it so deeply now. And I know that your purpose is not necessarily your career, although it can be. It's very possible, and I think it kind of ends up being that for a lot of people, because your purpose is actually you living in the truth of who you actually are. It's your truest identity form being expressed, and that looks so different for everyone because we all have different individual unique purposes. For one person, a part of their essence is to bring joy to people, is to remind people to laugh. It's to remind people about the goodness that exists in the world. And if we think about just that framework, that's not a job in of itself. Being someone that brings joy to people and reminds them of happiness and the good things, that's not necessarily a job in the limited sense of how we think of jobs and careers. Like, that's not just a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher. That is a very specific characteristic and skill that this person brings into the world in a very, very unique way. And how this can start to shift into becoming the thing that we do is when we bring in all the other things that excite us, all the other things that bring us joy, all the other things that resonate with us. So all those things that I talked about in my story that I tried this and did a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I like a little this and a little that, all of those things help to bring my purpose, my unique purpose, to the forefront. My purpose in this lifetime is to empower people. And it's specifically to empower people to live a life of intention so that they too can live out their life's calling. That is what I know my purpose to be. And by itself, those are just it's kind of a big thing. It's okay, well, what does that look like in the world, tangibly? And what I'm discovering is that it looks like this. It looks like me showing up as me in my expression, in my funky, quirky clothes and my outfits, and sharing my story and sharing the insight and the wisdom that I have gained in my life, and sharing tools and tips and sharing how to implement these things in our lives so that we can connect more to ourselves, so that we can make decisions that are aligned with who we are. Because the truth of the matter is, you won't be able to live your purpose if you don't have a sense of who you are. You have to have and build a strong foundation of self so that you know the way that you're feeling is the way that you are feeling, and not the way that's being guided by other people's feelings or how you think you should feel. It's you being able to make decisions that are aligned with what feels right to you. And you can only know that as you continue to deepen the relationship with yourself and connect in with yourself. And in doing that, you start to discover what your purpose is. You start to realize what your gifts are. You start to realize what your skills are, what your likes are, what your dislikes are. You start to just form a really, really deep connection with the self. And in forming that connection with self, you are aligning yourself to your ultimate purpose. And that is to be who you are. And that is to express who you are in the world. So when we think about purpose, we must remove it from the box that purpose is your career. It is what you do to make money. It can be, and it very much probably will be for most of us, but it doesn't have to be. Taking the example of the person who is here to bring joy and to remind people of the goodness of life, they may need to do that in the environment of a lawyer's office. So maybe that person is a lawyer, but they are a lawyer that also brings this certain energy into what they do. And that makes them unique. That makes them walking in alignment with their purpose. For so many of us, who we are at work is different from who we are at home and in our personal lives. But when you are living in your purpose, you are going to want to be in your full expression all the time and not have to mask it in certain situations. And so there is a sense of embodiment that happens where you start to learn how to showcase, even in your job, you start to be more fully you in this place. And for some of us, we might not feel safe enough to be able to be our full self in this place. And that's where the questions will start to come of, well, is it time to quit? I'm not feeling fulfilled in this work. This is not what I want to do anymore. So then what? And as you keep going deeper in that journey to self and you listen to the universe and you receive the signs and the different things that are being placed in your awareness, you will decide and figure out what it is you need to do in order to fully live your purpose in all spaces. So it's more than just what it is you do for a living. It's how you show up in the world. It's how are you embracing and embodying your essence, your full, truest essence. And what does that look like in the world? That is what it is to find your purpose and to live your purpose. So thank you for being here with me today. That is the entry in today's Solitude Diary. And I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.